It's a collision that happens often during a football game, but for one young promising player, it's had devastating consequences. 8 weeks ago, 23-year-old Beau Vernon was the victim of a head-high tackle during a country football game. He's now in a wheelchair, and as Cheryl Hall reports, Beau Vernon's discovered his club's insurance doesn't cover his serious injuries.
I just remember going down to pick up the ball, and as I started coming up, I was just hit flush on the head with a hip and shoulder, just straight in the middle, and I went down. I knew straight away that I'd done something serious. Pins and needles just running through my legs and arms, and someone touched my legs and I couldn't feel them. And
8 weeks ago, this game between Leongatha and Wonthaggi changed the lives of Beau Vernon and his family and rocked the community of South Gippsland. Darryl and Kerry Vernon were on holiday in a remote part of Africa when they heard their son was injured.
Beau was in intensive care, and we got a message through before coming back and found out that it wasn't a severed spinal cord, so we think, OK, there's a chance. And then we find out that 95% of them with spinal injuries aren't severed, they're just crushed, and that's what Beau's been left with, a crushed spinal cord.
Beau Vernon was Leongatha's star midfielder, last year's best and fairest, and a former Gippsland power player. He's now coming to terms with life in a wheelchair.
I've got an hour of physio a day, an hour of occupational therapy, and they're just working on building the muscles that I've got, which are like my biceps and my shoulder muscles, and slowly getting a little bit of wrist movement, which allows me to pick up different objects and that, so just working at strengthening those muscles at the moment.
The Gippsland community and the wider football world have worked hard in the last 2 months to raise money for the family.
There'd be 200 to 300 people just doing little fundraisers and being incorporated with auction nights and sportsmen's nights, etc. We've had notification from a lot of other Victorian country clubs, which they're donating their gate or rattling tins in support of Beau. So, and then we're talking about over the whole state. You know, we had one at Chuka, we had one in the Horsham area.
But it would have been unnecessary if the football club had top-level insurance.
Nobody be prepared for what happened. You know, the trauma and just the feeling of helplessness around the place.
Like most football clubs in Victoria, Leongatha did not have cover for paraplegia and quadriplegia.
We have policies that would be very much the same as all Victorian country clubs. We knew we were covered, but probably didn't realise that that we could have had extra cover for these one-off accidents.
Darryl Vernon has played for both Richmond and the Swans and is also a former coach for Leongatha. He says most country football clubs are run by volunteers and don't have the expertise.
My opinion is, I think whether the AFL have to oversee the whole situation and make it mandatory throughout the whole country that in circumstances like this, clubs pay the money. And if it came out of the player's pocket and not the club's pocket, who cares? As long as it's paid and no one has to go through circumstances like this again, which we would class as insignificant. I've done my calculations to be $8 per senior player and about $1 or $2 per junior player.
Just feel a bit embarrassed. I'm not sure if embarrassed is a word, but it's hard for me to accept all these people raising money for me when and could have so easily been covered by better insurance.
Darryl Vernon says he'd rarely heard of serious spinal injuries in football. He recently watched his son's incident for the first time and was deeply disturbed.
I don't want to watch it again, to be honest.
He says the incident was not uncommon, but the outcome was.
I see a situation which I would probably see 10 times a game. In country football more so. I think in AFL they've sort of cut out a lot more head high. It would be an incident which I would say, yes, he deserves a free kick, he got hit high, and move on with the game. Unfortunately, Beau was unable to move on.
Beau Vernon will spend many more months in rehabilitation and remains positive about his future.
I was thinking the other day, I was watching it was a movie or whatnot, but someone had cancer and they was slowly, progressively got worse, and at least my incidents happen and I'm slowly getting better, and I get like little highs every day from being able to do something that I couldn't do the day before, so that makes it a lot easier, I think.
He was recently inspired when he saw Australia's Paralympic rugby team training.
Yeah, I'm willing to try anything. I reckon I'll be watching the Paralympics looking for a sport for Brazil in 2016.
Only 40 out of 800 Victorian sports clubs have paid the extra insurance, which would cover paraplegia and quadriplegia. The Victorian Country Football League says it's reviewing the situation.